Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby. If you need me, call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far. Don't worry, baby, just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, baby. Remember the day I set you free? I told you you could always count on me, darling. From that day on, I made a vow I'll be there when you want me, some way, somehow. Oh, baby, that ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, baby. Oh, no, darling. No wind, no rain, or winter cold can stop me, baby. No, no, baby. 'Cause you are if you're ever in trouble, I'll be there on the double. Just send for me, oh baby. My love is alive, way down in my heart.
Hello and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Lynette Trickey. I'm the SVP of Development and Operations for the American Heart Association, and we're just thrilled to have you all here with us. You know, caregivers can often have a higher risk for health and emotional problems, and that's because caregivers are less likely to attend to their own health by eating a healthy diet, getting their physical activity, and addressing, some of the unique challenges that they face. The American Heart Association and Regents Blue Cross Blue Shield of Oregon have joined forces with the goal to improve the mental well-being of caregivers and equip them with the tools and resources to prioritize their health. So we're thrilled to have you here today and to join us in this conversation. A couple of housekeeping items for you, as this is a webinar. It's a webinar format, and though we can't see you, we want to hear from you. And so we'll have time at the end of the program for Q&A. So please use the chat function on our Zoom call. Make sure you choose everyone from the drop-down menu. So if you see that chat box, click on that caret and choose everyone so that we can all see the questions that you have. It is now my pleasure to introduce a special guest who you may recognize from our previous conversation, designating a healthcare proxy. Jill Vigiano spent 19 years working in commercial real estate before retiring to become a full-time mom. When her husband survived a massive stroke in 2008, Jill focused her skills on his recovery. She wrote a book about her spouse and caregiver experience, shedding light on the real-life impact of acquired brain injury and providing hope and encouragement to those facing significant challenges. We've had the pleasure of working with the Vigianos for over a decade now. I've really enjoyed getting to know her and her husband, her whole family. She's been an amazing volunteer for the AHA, both here in Oregon and nationally. Jill, we are so glad that you can join us today.
Thank you for having me, Lynette. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. So to get us started, Jill, can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you became a caregiver?
Sure. My husband, a healthy, active, young man, still managed to survive a massive stroke on his 51st birthday. He had a spontaneous bilateral carotid artery dissection resulting in a massive stroke. It took the right side of his body. It took his ability to speak, his ability to think clearly, and his memory. So it's been 13 years. Happy to say that it's, 13 years have gone by. It's much better now.
Yeah,
we were just sort of thrust into this extremely unknown world. We had kids at home. It was a big deal, and it's been our life going forward ever since 2008.
Wow, I imagine quite a journey, no doubt. So what are some of the challenges that you've experienced over the last year, and what's really helped you overcome them?
The whole COVID shutdown thing was first, it was shocking, but we really had to kind of dig deep and think about what made us as successful as we have been in recovery. And we thought, how can we maintain those things? So a huge part of our recovery story has been being outside, getting a lot of exercise, lots of good clean air, a lot of blood flow, all those things that really affected my husband's ability to function. So we made sure that we maintained the things that worked for us. We got outside for walks every day. We found outdoor activities that would work with the weather. Instead of being inside for activities, we started pickleball. We played more bocce. We just did things as much as we could to try to keep our lives as normal as possible while still, remaining healthy. Absolutely.
As the caretaker, how did you kind of personally focus on yourself within that?
After all these years, when I came to understand that my husband would always be disabled, we had to find a way to merge caregiving and self-help. It had to become one thing. It had to work for him and it had to work for me. So we stayed social. I need people. I am a people person. So I made sure I found ways. I found like a Pilates class that meets in the park. So we could be outside and still see people, still stay active. And to keep, we had to find a way to keep the joy. We couldn't let ourselves, we had to really talk about what was our attitude going to be? How are we going to approach the world? Being outside, being the only people outside oftentimes, how did we still had to find a way to find joy in our life. So one of the great things about my husband is he is the eternal optimist. So he's, everything is always going to be great. So that was very helpful. But I would say for me, for my well-being, it was finding people, finding things outdoors, and finding a way to maintain a positive attitude wherever we went. And that, there are times when that was a little challenging, and then there were times when it became very, very easy.
I love how you shared, you really put self-care and caregiving together, right? Because sometimes you can't make time for one over the other. So if you make it one thing, hopefully you have those things that you find joy together, but then it's not one more thing for you to do, right? That's what I heard.
Yes, and that, like anything, it requires a certain level of compromise and trying things that kind of took me out of my comfort zone. So all those things, but they had to work for him and they had to work for me. So we spend a lot of our time together, obviously. So we had to find ways to compromise. I read a book out loud to him. We found, we put a bocce court in our backyard. I mean, it's nothing great, but it's a bocce court that we could play.
Yeah.
We got a fire pit so we could sit outside around the fire and invite friends to sit around the fire and still maintain our distance, remain safe, but still remain social. It was really about finding ways to keep our lifestyle alive in a way that still maintained health and activity.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jill. It's just been such a pleasure to have you back on the webinar again, and really, hearing how you've really been able to prioritize your health within your caregiving experience. And we're just so appreciative of all that you do for the American Heart Association to share your story and really, help others, right, who are experiencing, some of the challenges that you and your husband and your family have really faced, not only this last year, but over the last 13 years. My goodness, I can't believe it's been that long since we've got to know you. So to our audience, I want to share, we'll have Jill coming back at the end of today's conversation. So please keep putting any questions in the chat box. I am now thrilled to turn our program over to Leslie Foran. She's the Director of Program Strategy at Regions. Leslie?
Thanks, Lynette, and thank you, Jill, for sharing your inspiring story and your honesty with us. And I look forward to having you back for the Q&A session. I'd like to start by thanking the team at Regions and the American Heart Association and all of our speakers today for today's event. At Regions, we're passionate about improving the health of caregivers, which is why we're thrilled to partner with the American Heart Association this year to offer caregivers the information and resources they need to thrive. A couple of quick statistics for you as we get kicking off the conversation today. 1 in 5 adults, or about 53 million Americans, cares for a loved one. And more than 50% of today's caregivers took on this role in the last 20 months amid the COVID-19 pandemic. When we're caring for others, often the last thing we think of is ourselves and our own mental health. So we're here to talk about that today. I have the honor of introducing 2 of my colleagues who will lead today's discussion, Peggy McGuire and Andre Michelli. Peggy is a passionate advocate for caregivers and those living with serious illness. At Regions, she champions philanthropic investments that advance equity through whole person health. In 2019, she founded the Oregon Coalition for Living Well with Serious Illness, and she also serves on several boards, including the Leadership Council for the Rosalind Carter Institute for Caregivers. Andre brings a wealth of experience on the topic of mental health as the Clinical Director of Behavioral Health for Regions, where she leads behavioral health strategy and implementation for nearly 1 million health plan members across Oregon. Of course, there'll be plenty of time at the end for open Q&A, so feel free to leave them in the chat if you have them now, and I'll be monitoring them as we have the conversation today. So welcome, Peggy and Andre. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Leslie. And I also want to say thank you to Lynette and Jill for the inspiring first conversation. Jill, I was really struck when you said basically the relationship between your husband, the person who experienced a serious illness, and you as his caregiver impacted the health and well-being of both of you, and that you really had to think about ways to prioritize your individual health and prioritize self-care even as you cared for your husband. I want to thank you for sharing your personal story and centering the conversation we're about to have in your experience as a caregiver. Andre, building on what we heard from Jill, I also wanted to start off by unpacking some of the challenges that caregivers face today. We've heard about the incredible strains the pandemic have put on caregivers, and it has resulted in a seismic shift of women leaving the workforce to become full-time caregivers. By February of 2021, there were 2.3 million fewer women in the workforce compared to early 2020 as a result of increased caregiving duties. And we also, as we heard from Jill, there are challenges at the individual level. As Jill alluded to, caregivers can feel isolated and unsupported, and sometimes left to their own devices to figure out what they need to do to connect with others and to focus on their well-being. I'd just like you to respond to some of these issues. You have 20 plus years of experience as a behavioral health expert, and I'd love for you to share with our audience and talk us through what kind of impact these challenges can have on our mental health. You're on mute.
There you go. You think I could learn to hit a button in my 20 plus years experience? Thank you for that. And yes, thank you, Jill. What I love most about Jill's story and what she shared, and that I think is key to everything we're going to talk about here, is they were creative in their thinking. We have to think outside the box. It's a new normal. And understanding, we go through a grieving process too when something traumatic happens. Grieve it, and it's okay to grieve it, but understand, okay, life's different now and we have to do things differently. So being able to come up with creative activities like Jill, you and your husband did, is phenomenal. You're right. I mean, the stresses of caregiving pre-pandemic were there, and post-pandemic we're even more isolated. And I think caregivers very often become the hidden figures in the background. They're not recognized. They're not the patient, the one who needs help. And so it takes all of us around that person, whether it's family, friends, programs, to recognize that they exist, first of all. But as far as the caregiver's role in that is to also speak up. I think sometimes they can get in the pattern, well, my family member needs this, this, and this. We have to devote everything to that person, neglecting ourselves. So caregivers, the responsibility is speaking up and say, hey, I'm here too, and I need this as well, because there are services out there, and the same services for the family member themselves.
Last year, or maybe the pre-COVID,
Yeah.
Regents partnered with an organization called Archangels
Mhm.
to help people recognize and see themselves as caregivers. Because many people, if you asked, are you a caregiver? They would say, no, I'm just, basically
Wife
taking
or-
care
yeah.
of my loved one.
Yeah.
I'm getting their medications. I'm doing XYZ. And so we had this campaign that we did called Look, Love, Lift. So kind of look all around you. There are caregivers everywhere. I think
Mhm.
Leslie said 1, and I can't remember 1 in 5, right? But there's someone, someone in the room next to you as a caregiver. Look at them, see them, acknowledge what they're doing, and then do something to lift them up. So it's look, loved, lift.
That's
Just
awesome.
acknowledge them and the kind of love they're providing to others.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I bet the number's even higher, because we also have the temporary caregivers, those that a family member is going through something very difficult and needs that support, but it's only for a short time period, or a temporary period. So we need to add those to the list. And things, it doesn't even have to be a health issue. It could be just an age issue. So we all are caregivers, to your point, in some respect, and give yourself some credit for that. I think we, and especially women, tend to downplay what we do and minimize what we do, but it's a lot. It's a lot of little things, and they add up. And as they add up, the stress builds as well.
Yeah. And we know there's kind of this undeniable connection between the stress and the mental health and the impacts on our physical health. With our caregiver audience in mind, can you talk about what steps we can take to prioritize both our physical and behavioral health?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a really excellent point, because those two systems, the physical and the emotional, are connected. We can't separate one from the other. And very often we feel physical signs before we will recognize them. The emotional signs are there, but we brush them off. We may start to feel the physical signs: headaches, more tired, irritability, stomach aches, these little aches and pains. And again, we can have the tendency to blow them off and forge through our day, but it's acknowledging them and say, hey, is this something new that I'm feeling? What could be the source of it? It's up to us individually to start to put the puzzle pieces together, because like, you couldn't see if I had a stomach ache unless I told you. so recognizing those facts, and then it's taking action so that they don't build and build. And it's doing things, I think it's prioritizing you, and in the crazy stressful days, it's still making yourself a priority and taking that time for you, even if it's 5 minutes at the beginning of the day or whenever you fit it in. Take time for yourself and do something that's mentally calming for you, can work wonders for your physical health as well.
And I imagine that looks different for everybody.
Absolutely.
What works for me might not work for you, etc.
Absolutely. It's finding, sometimes, like for me personally, physical activity is mentally relaxing. So it's something, and I like to ask people, what's something you haven't done in a long time that you really enjoy and you miss? Well, maybe you can't do it to the extent that you did it before, but you can do it in a small capacity.
Yeah, and
But it's making that time, even if you have to schedule it.
Yeah, I loved what Jill said about playing pickleball.
Yeah.
And being outside and being by a fire. For her, I mean, that would, for her, sounded like the key. Let me switch gears a little bit and talk about burnout. As caregivers, how can we recognize the signs of burnout in ourselves and then proactively address them?
I think some of the things I mentioned earlier, the physical signs and the physiological signs of irritability is a key one. Being more tired than normal is key. And that's when we really have to rely on friends and family and support system. I think too, another common, I'll say, fault of women is not asking for help. And we look at it as a weakness. I think of it as a strength. To recognize when one needs help is it's one of the best attributes that we can have. And I think, I guess I'm pretty confident in saying, if a friend of mine, if I ask a friend of mine for help, they're not going to say no if I need it, and they're not going to look down on me that, oh, she can't take care of that, how good is she? So seeing the early, am I more irritable? Am I more tired? Am I starting to do I feel achy? Are things just not right? Really, it takes being in tune with your body, knowing when it's working right and when it's not working right. Am I forgetting things? Things like that. And then taking a step back, pretend you're outside yourself and looking in. If I was seeing this in another person, what would I think was going on? And that can clue us into what's going on with us and reach out. I like to suggest to people to always keep with them the names and numbers of 3 people you can reach out to at any time. If you're getting to that point, you're going to explode. I need to talk to somebody. I need to vent. I need to just take a walk and not say anything for a while, whatever it is. But be prepared in advance to reach out to the support system.
That's such good advice. And I think, women often, and I can relate to this, don't want to burden anyone else with their troubles. But I think on the flip side, right, if my name's on that Post-it note and somebody calls me because they trust me enough to share their pain or their burden, then I'm honored by that. I don't view that as a burden when somebody I care about reaches out for help. So we have to flip the switch in our own minds and be able to do that.
Exactly. It's a really good, I saw a saying once, I get it's a phrase, I call it phrase of the day. It's like a quote every morning. It comes to my phone. And there's one, your friends are those who'll pick up the phone at 3 a.m., and we know who those people are. And it's an honor to be on that list. It's a privilege.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's good. Recognize when you need help and have the list ready of the people that you can call on. Great advice.
Absolutely.
What do you see as the role of technology potential role of technology in supporting caregivers who are experiencing burnout or stress?
Well, I think, we have such an advantage that we didn't have years ago with technology and just Facebook and you can stay connected to people much easier, so that if we're physically isolated, we don't have to be emotionally isolated. And our friend, someone on our list, maybe in another state, we can do a Zoom call, so we can stay more connected to people. So that's a plus. The technology is also helpful in terms of treatment. There's virtual care for medical providers. There's also virtual care for mental health providers. And so that things like transportation or time barriers are greatly decreased because we have virtual. We also, at Regents and, many insurance companies have different platforms of digital tools like online resources, just guiding you through meditation, giving you some self-assessment tools. And so that can help prompt you, hey, maybe I need to reach out to somebody. So there's a wealth of opportunity out there. It's pretty hard now to hide from technology, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about that though. Like when Jill was talking about her experience, and when her husband had his health issue, I think she said it was 2008, that technology did not really play a role, and now here we can connect with others in Facebook groups, or we can connect with online tools and resources, or even do online therapy.
Yep.
And I think about, practically speaking, for caregivers who don't necessarily want to leave their loved one, or think, oh, I can't take 2 hours to go to this appointment for myself. They could do it from home with the person they love in the next room. It makes it much easier.
Absolutely. And virtual care is pretty quick too, because especially with behavioral health, sometimes you're making a doctor's appointment and it can wait. When someone is reaching out for emotional support and mental health, it's needed then, and virtual care is a good solution for that as well.
Yeah, that's great. Let me ask about some practical tips that we can all implement to manage stress. Certainly the last 18 months have been stressful for everyone, not just caregivers. But so what do you suggest that people do to manage their stress in the current environment?
I think some of the things we've already talked about, Peggy, are great. It's individual. I can't tell you how to manage your stress. I can suggest some things, areas, but it's really, for step one is thinking, what calms me? What soothes me? Is it, reading a book in a quiet place? Is it taking a walk? Is it, doing laundry, vacuuming the some people that work. Is it going for a run? So it's first identifying a variety of activities. You want a handful to choose from, because you may not be able, you want things to cover you 24/7. So some things maybe not realistic at 2 in the morning, but others are. So making that list and then making it a priority, making it, I'm going to do one of these at least every day. It may only be 10 minutes, but that's okay. Some days you have more, and making it as a priority as brushing your teeth. We do the self-care for the physical thing, so our teeth don't fall out. We have to take ownership of doing that for our emotional health too. So making that a priority and scheduling it, even if we have to, it sounds kind of funny, but even if we have to write it down and to make ourselves do it and to give ourselves some accountability, that's what we have to do. The other thing, just for a quick tip, if we feel ourselves kind of getting to that anxious point, I like to take a mini vacation. And even though I might not be able to hop on a plane and go somewhere nice and tropical, I can relax and close my eyes and imagine that too, visualize yourself. And it has a calming effect. You can feel your, your pulse go down, your heart rate go down, and the calming feelings. Some people, meditation works. So there's such a variety, but it's finding what works for you.
Yeah, I love your overall advice about being prepared. So thinking about with the post-it, I'm visualizing a post-it note with the names of 3 friends I could call, or my sister, whomever, right? But then I think also having a similar list of activities that provide me peace and joy. And that might not be the same thing that would be on your list or on Jill's list, but for each of us to know what are those go-to things that we can rely on.
Right.
I think
Exactly. And again, you're right. The key is being prepared, because when the time comes and we don't have the list, it's a little late. So being prepared, and again, I'll use a medical analogy. It's like scheduling your annual checkups or whatever. It's thinking ahead. Yes, we all get stressed. We can't avoid it. Even good things are stressful. So I need to know what I'm going to do to take care of myself and be prepared at any moment of any day. So when the time comes, I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that great advice. And I think I'm starting to see some questions in the chat. So I'd love to welcome Jill back to participate in the next part of our conversation, which will be a Q&A session facilitated by Leslie Foran.
Great. Thank you so much, Peggy and Andre. Yes, it is time for Q&A, and welcome back, Jill, to the conversation. So if you have a question, a couple have been coming into the chat, make sure you click on the all panelists and attendees from the chat box drop-down menu. And I think I'll kick us off, and Hannah and I are monitoring the questions. But first question up to you, Jill, about as you hear this advice, and you've heard this conversation, thinking back to the beginning of your journey as a caregiver, is there anything that you would do differently? It sounds like you've done a wonderful job and you wrote a book about it, but is there anything that you look back and think, oh, I would change that, or I would do differently?
I think the one thing I would do differently now that I have the perspective to be able to look back is I would have been more clear about what I needed. I was really fortunate to have friends who sort of swooped in and took care of things for me. They arranged meals for us for the first few months. They arranged certain things for me. I didn't even know what I needed. We were just so deep in it. But I think looking back, if I could have been more clear about what I needed, what I really needed was for the people who knew me and loved my husband to say, everything's going to be okay. We are here for you. We will never abandon you. And I am available to you whenever you need me. If I could have said that to people, I just really needed someone to tell me it was going to be okay. Even if it wasn't, I needed that. I knew no one could solve the problem. Recovering from stroke only happens through the long slog of hard work. But I needed to know that if we fell, and it was a very real possibility that we were going to fall and not be able to get up, I needed to know that there were people there for me that were going to scoop me up and let me live in their basement or whatever it was that I was going to need. So I think that's what I would have done differently now, having the chance to look back.
That's great. Yeah, and it's often hard for us to articulate our needs, and we feel like that's a burden, or we don't want to be a burden. As a caregiver, or the person who's receiving care too, I think feels a little bit of that as well. So
I think one of the hardest things is people say, and there's nothing wrong with this, it's just hard, is people say, if there's anything I can do. Well, the answer is you can do everything, but that's not helpful either. So right. It's really about being specific. Can I take your son to his soccer game? Yes. Can I I have an incredible housekeeper. Can I send her over to your house to clean your house for you? Yes. Those are very specific and extremely helpful.
Mhm. Absolutely. That specificity of, I'm making a meal tonight. Would you like one? Or,
Yes.
something
I'm
like that.
at the grocery store. What do you need today?
Right. Yeah.
That's such good advice, Jill, in terms of, for people who want to support caregivers, instead of saying just how can I help, because that makes them have to work to tell you something, instead of
Mhm.
just saying, can I walk your dog, or can I,
Mhm.
get you groceries?
Yep.
That I'm going to take that away from this conversation.
On the flip side too, what I heard you saying, Jill, looking back what you would have done differently. Sometimes we think, well, they're my family, they should know what I need. And we can never assume. No one knows what we need unless we tell them. And it's up to us to speak up.
Right. I want to throw out something I've been thinking about. I took a whole page of notes here, and it kind of relates to a question in the chat from Kara. And Andre, I'm going to kind of throw it to you first around the issue of stigma and behavioral health. About, you had mentioned, we prioritize our physical health, and we have to make preventative appointments and screenings. And what are kind of, as if someone as a caregiver or someone we're caring for, we recognize that some of those physical signs you talked about, how do we communicate that there's, that we think we need a behavioral health check, or we want to make an appointment to see our primary care? Like, how do we prioritize behavioral health in alignment with our physical health? Do we bring it up at a physical health appointment and kind of break down the stigma of just like, this is a separate thing? This is really comprehensive health for all of us.
That's a great question. I think, I try to look at the positive fallout from COVID, and less stigma about behavioral health is one of them, because it's affecting people that maybe would have been okay or better without COVID. So it's out in the open more, and that's a really good thing. I think you make a great point about PCPs. Very often, this has nothing to do with COVID. People bring, especially depression and anxiety are very common. People will talk to their PCPs about it because they have longstanding relationships, and it's someone they trust, rather than, ooh, I'm going to pick a name of someone I don't know. And we're doing, and there's been a big push in the behavioral health industry over the last few years, which is fantastic, about more integrated work, really giving medical providers the tools so that when they hear these questions, they have the resources. I mean, a lot of people receive some prescriptions through PCPs, which is fine, but sometimes they might encounter something that is a little beyond their scope. So we are working and have developed, and not just our company, but many, how to help PCPs. And I think as far as prioritizing, do both. I don't think you can't put one may take a front seat because of the acuity, but they're both equally as important. And a lot of medical providers now have direct contacts with behavioral health providers. They have referrals they go to, they have them in the same building. The optimal scenario, you're leaving your doctor's office and you've talked about these things. Hey, I can walk you downstairs and you can see someone right there. So there's more of that going on. But if you're more comfortable with talking to your medical provider first, do that. It's a trusted person. They're still in the same, it's all the medical field, whether it's your brain or your knee. Start with that person for guidance.
I think that I'm so glad to hear about the movement toward more integrated health, because I really think we need a healthcare system that provides whole person health, that is looking at the physical, social, and behavioral components, all the dimensions of our health, and thinking about how do we support people holistically, in their healthcare journey. And I think right now we have these silos. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you talking about integration.
It really has, because I think people are realizing too more and more. I mean, I can say I thought this for years, that behavioral health therapies and techniques can help improve medical illnesses and conditions. And so it's, historically, you're right. You worked in blinders, and now it's a lot more open. Yeah, we need like a more Walmarts, one-stop shopping for healthcare. There are some out there. It's growing.
Including Walmart.
Yeah.
is trying to expand into healthcare.
You never know, whatever works.
Right.
I thought
Yeah, but it's like seeing the whole person. That's what we need to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Leslie.
That's okay. I thought it was interesting when we were talking about the role of technology, and when we're saying, Jill, I remember you and we've had this conversation about, there wasn't Facebook and a group that you could tap into. But then I also heard, Andre, you said, literally you could have a Post-it note with 3 people that have your call people. That's a low tech. And then I also heard you say you have an app that gives you quotes every day to give you a little inspiration of well-being. So we're kind of all on the spectrum of what resources and the role of technology plays in that. But I'd love to hear from any of you, all of you, if you have, is there a specific thing, a support, if it's a support group or other resources that you're using that others on the webinar might find resourceful, whether that's through a formal group or an informal group, just some kind of practical things that you want to share, if you have any.
I have one. I meditate every day. I wake up in the morning and I do a guided meditation, and I use a Deepak Chopra app, which I really love. And then I do some light yoga, and that I found that throughout the pandemic, those 2 things, like starting my day with the meditation and the yoga, it takes maybe 30 minutes altogether. And it has helped me really navigate and stay positive throughout the pandemic.
Great. Jill or Andre, anything that you want to share with the group, resource-wise, that you found helpful?
For me, it's all about variety. I guess we have a lot of energy, and so it's about variety. But a huge part of our just maintaining progress has always been about scheduling. I think Andre, you talked about it briefly. Peggy, maybe it was you. The importance of scheduling, and we schedule our exercise time, we schedule our fun time, we schedule our social time, because it's easy to just get in a rut. So my husband and I share a calendar so that we know what we're doing individually versus what we're doing together, to try to maintain some level of balance and variety. So we have found from the very beginning, scheduling made all the difference. Once you're done, say you're done with your 30 minutes, you're done. It's not hanging over your head because you followed your schedule. So for us, that has been a big part of keeping a positive attitude, accomplishing what we want to accomplish, and providing all that variety in our lives has really been about scheduling. It sounds weird to schedule fun, but I recommend it.
That's great. Well, good. Well,
I think too, when you mention resources, that's too, some of it is individual preference. Do I want a big group? Do I want one-on-one? Where am I most comfortable? Do I like the physical act of writing versus texting on my phone? So it's kind of see where your interest and where your comfort level is, and then go in that direction for a resource.
Right. Well, we're at time, and it looks like we're all done with our questions. We're out of time. So a special thank you to Peggy, Andre, and Jill for the wonderful information and candor that you shared with all of us today. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed myself. And thank you for your time and for all that you do for caregivers. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Lynette to close out today's program.
Thank you so much, Leslie and Peggy and Andre and Jill for participating. I just love the conversation that we've had today. Thank you to all of you for your questions to keep the conversation lively. I feel like I learned so much. So we'll be sending a follow-up email to all of our participants today with some resources from today's discussion. And on behalf of the American Heart Association and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Oregon, thank you so much for joining us.
Mama said, fulfill the prophecy, be something great. Go make a legacy, manifest destiny. Back in the days, we wanted everything, wanted everything. Mama said, burn your biographies, rewrite your history, light up your wildest dreams, museum victories. Every day, we wanted everything, wanted everything. Mama said, don't give up, it's a little complicated, all tied up, no more love, and I'd hate to see you waiting. Had to have high hopes for a living, shooting for the stars, but I couldn't make a killing. Didn't have a time, but I always had a vision, always had high hopes. Had to have high hopes for a living, didn't know how, but I always had a feeling I was gonna be that one in a million. Always had high hopes. Mama said, something for oddities, stranger crusades. Ain't ever wanna be the winning the novelties that don't ever change. We wanted everything, wanted everything. Stay up on that rise, stay up on